I'm doing a review for this book, Why Oxytocin Matters, by Kerstin Uvnas Moberg. And if I'm not pronouncing that right, I'm apologising now. I have done a little bit of research, but it might not be right. Okay, so this book was a small, easy to read scientific explanation of the importance of oxytocin, the bonding hormone, with relevance to pregnancy, birth, skin to skin, and breastfeeding. The book was written in quite a dispassionate and scientific way, which made it less exciting for me to read, but I also think that it is important to remove emotion from this area when it comes to reasoning and implementation. Uvnas Moberg is very careful not to make this a political or a gendered book. It is very evidence-based. Structured and succinctly, Uvnas Moberg goes through the processes of pregnancy, birth, skin to skin and breastfeeding and explains how oxytocin affects these processes and the further effects of oxytocin that is released. She also explains what can interrupt oxytocin flow and the effects of that, and what people can do to compensate for missed opportunities to release oxytocin. The book is quite scientific, although it is written in an accessible style. I'm always a bit disheartened when I read books from a scientific point of view that prove what many of us already have concluded for ourselves from experience. So, for example, cuddling promotes bonding. However, I do also appreciate that, for many reasons, relationships in our culture have become very disconnected and detached over previous centuries and even millennia. And for these reasons, in today's culture, many parents feel the need for permission to love and care for their babies in the way that their instincts would naturally guide them to do. When Uvnas Moberg describes the environment that promotes oxytocin release during labour, such as low lights, not too much noise, not people coming in and out too much, or people that the labouring woman doesn't know, I always imagine people's eyes rolling at this, as I think many people still consider birth as a medical procedure. And I just wonder if it would be simpler to explain to people that birth is part of the sexual process. I know many people are scared of putting the words baby and sex in the same sentence, but babies are created through sex, and the bodily muscles and hormones used are the same when the baby is created as when it's born. So it's the same environment that the mother needs when she gives birth. Obviously, the naked man isn't necessary, but the low lights, etc., etc. And does that make it easier to understand that, just as with sex, birth is an emotional process as well as a physical process? And therefore, these things are really important. And that's why in this process of birth, less direct attention and a less industrious atmosphere will facilitate birth better. There was a lot of information about skin-to-skin contact, which I found interesting. I know that skin-to-skin is now promoted more immediately after birth for mother and baby because of its positive effects, but I didn't realise just how powerful it is. Uvnas Moberg advocates that as there is a clear background of evidence to show that oxytocin released during all these processes has positive effects for women and their babies and their short-term and long-term health, both physical and mental, and that interventions at birth and lack of close contact after birth can reduce these positive health effects, and also that breastfeeding continues to promote oxytocin release. So surely it makes sense that these factors are taken into consideration when planning maternity care, including potentially giving additional synthetic oxytocin to women having epidurals and or caesareans, prioritising skin to skin for the many invisible benefits that it provides, and of course letting mothers-to-be know about these benefits of skin to skin and breastfeeding that they may not be aware of. Because although people have complained about the deluge of benefits of breastfeeding that are used to guilt women into breastfeeding, I think that the fact that there is scientific evidence to show that it chemically makes you and your baby fall in love is worth informing women about, as well as the physical health benefits of the oxytocin released, which are numerous. This was an interesting and informative book if you already are interested in pregnancy and babies. I wouldn't recommend this book to expectant mums because it isn't that sort of baby book, although I might refer to it if a mum could do with more information. I think it would be an excellent book for any health professional to read. Any health professionals who have contact with pregnant women, new mothers and babies, including GPs. This book, it wasn't the most exciting book I've ever read, but the themes in it are very important, and I hope that a book that lays out the scientific facts in this way will convince scientifically minded people that supporting and facilitating oxytocin release is as valuable in their professions as medical interventions that may also need to be made. If health professionals can fully grasp how important loving contact between parents and children is, then we'll be halfway to allowing parents to practice what their instincts are often telling them to do. This book demonstrates how every cuddle is worth taking the time for, the importance of time with your baby, and how it's so much more important than rushing off to the next thing in the circus that we call the real world. And I think a positive development in recent years that I've noticed has been slings and baby carriers, which are very popular now and promote that same close and loving contact. Okay, thank you.